Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your video blog for Hurricane HD. Now Monday, June the 4th, 2012. Would like to start off looking at a sea surface temperatures anomaly map. In other words, the departures from normal, either on the cold side, which is indicated by the blue shading, or the warm side, which is indicated by the yellows, the oranges, and especially the reds. As we can see here in the Pacific along the equator, there is an anomalous warming of the water, meaning that it's above normal, but not by much at all. And it is flanked by a cold Pacific overall, much more cold water than there is warm water. And this is a little bit of the sign of the El Nino trying to develop, but it's weak. The anomalies here, for the most part, very slight. And then you've got that on a background of a very cold Pacific Ocean overall, so really nothing, it's neutral is what it comes down to. The neutral signal exists in the Pacific Ocean, not much of a driver in place to really warm this water up here along the equator, much more than it is now. We may head towards a very weak El Nino by the fall, but probably not one that's strong enough to completely squash the Atlantic hurricane season, and that is why some of these forecasts that have come out in the recent week from Florida State University, from NOAA, are indicating just slightly below the normal or average expected hurricane season, with anywhere from maybe 11, 12, or 13 total named storms, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 hurricanes, hard to say, but not enough to just say, hey, you know what, this hurricane season is not going to be a big deal. Because even if they were only predicting 4 total storms and just one hurricane, that one hurricane could make a world of difference if it hits your neighborhood. But the anomalies, though, the departures from normal, have a lot to do with this. And if we look in the Atlantic, this area here between Africa and the Caribbean Sea, there are some positive anomalies in here. These orange shadings definitely showing up against what was thought to be a colder Atlantic. We'll see. It's only June 4th. It'll matter more in a little over 60 days when we get into August. But right now this area is running above normal, as you can see even up here in the subtropics, a little band of above normal sea surface temperatures. But then in the North Atlantic, a nice area of below normal temperatures, which means for the most part that the heat in the ocean is down here where it belongs. It's not displaced up here, and it doesn't distort the pattern. So we'll have to see. You know, it's just early in the season, and how this plays out later on, we'll take a look at it once a week, every Monday, to see where things stand. Another thing I wanted to take a look at once a week are the different factors that go into determining whether or not things are favorable for a tropical storm to form. And one of those is the vertical wind shear. Now this is out in the tropical Atlantic, that area between Africa and the Caribbean Sea. The black line here is the climatological norm of vertical wind shear, the change of wind speed and direction as you go up in the atmosphere. A tropical storm or hurricane does not like a lot of strong wind blowing against it in the atmosphere. And you can see that vertical wind shear is supposed to steadily drop in the tropical Atlantic throughout the year, as you would expect. And then your blue line represents departures from normal. And look where we are here today. We are below normal for wind shear, which means that it's actually favorable for the most part, or at least it's still 20 knots or so, but we are below normal, and we've been below normal wind shear wise for quite a while. So this too will be something to watch as we move through the next several months. If this stays below normal, or at least is not well above normal, it could be quite an active Cape Verde season, those tropical waves that come off of Africa. Again, this is the area between Africa and the Lesser Antilles. Looking at vertical instability, in other words, the atmosphere's ability to create convection, or is it too dry, is a very simple way to look at it. A dry, stable atmosphere, not going to be conducive to creating convection. Here we're looking to see if that instability is below normal, because you need more instability in the atmosphere. And yes, in the tropical Atlantic, vertical instability has been below normal, and it's trying to reach closer to the climatological average there, but it's got a ways to go. It's early in the season. The Saharan air layer coming off of Africa plays a big role in this. Again, something that we can check once a week as we go through the season. Moving into the Caribbean, the vertical wind shear in the Caribbean, slightly below average or the climatological norm, and that has been the case for a good deal, with a few exceptions here, a little blip or two, but it has been fairly low in the vertical wind shear department for the last several weeks, and we'll continue to watch that. And then as we move to the Caribbean, vertical instability. Now this is important because last year it ran very low. It paralleled the climatological norm, but it was always very, very low, so it looked like this. It was below normal. Now we're seeing just an ever so slightly tick above normal. Vertical instability right where we would look for it to be for the most part in the Caribbean, and it's just a matter of time that things will probably get favorable. I would say within the next month we'll probably see one more development as conditions look to be more favorable than they were last year, with a lot of dry air around last year, and therefore the vertical instability was well below climatology, and it looked like that. Not the case this year. It's running pretty much where it should be. Finally, looking in the Gulf of Mexico, the vertical instability here also running just about where it should be. It's been all over the place. As you can see, it should stabilize and really get itself even keeled, as they say, as we move through the season. We don't have that giant heat ridge of drought-producing high pressure sitting over the central part of the United States like we did last year. I call it the Texas air layer. That's just my term for it. And it was a giant hurricane killer. It's not there this year, not as prevalent. You remember Tropical Storm Don last year? It ran into that big dry air mass over Texas near Corpus Christi, and it dried right up. Now vertical instability, pretty much where you would expect it to be. It's going to go back and forth like an earthquake Richter scale reading, but we're not seeing it well below normal all the time due to that suppressing ridge of hot high pressure over the central part of the United States. So looking at current satellite picture here, there is one area in the Caribbean Sea, maybe a tropical wave in here. I didn't analyze the actual surface chart. Nonetheless, it's a tropical disturbance. We can generalize it as that. Not much chance for development, but some of this moisture is probably going to peel off and head, guess where? Right across South Florida again over the next few days, meaning more chances of filling up those lakes and ponds and canals. So get ready if you're in South Florida. Nothing as far as tropical cyclone formation headed your way, but heavy rains possible and just generally unsettled conditions over the next few days. I'll take a look at this each day this week on the Tropical Video blog. In the Eastern Pacific, all is quiet here as well. Remember, on a previous video blog, I mentioned that when you just see little clusters of convection like this, that we are not looking for development. They need to be organized and pretty much in an S shape like this, where they're trying to congregate around a common area of low pressure in the middle, and these are not doing that. You know, it's just a matter of time that it'll happen again, and I'll point out what that looks like, and you'll say, oh yeah, look at that, it does look like an S overall. Nature can be interesting in how it does that sometimes. So there you go, that's a look at the current sea surface temperature anomalies, vertical wind shear, instability, and a quick look at the tropics. Very quiet week ahead. Hopefully it'll stay that way. I think it will for at least the next 5 days. But nonetheless, we'll examine it each and every day this week on the Tropical Video blog for Hurricane and Hurricane HD. I'm Mark Sudduth. My website is hurricanetrack.com. Again, very glad to be producing these videos for the iPhone app, and I'll see you again tomorrow.